So I've been using the Rytm to sequence external equipment, and I keep forgetting it can do that, or at least I think it can't do it quite often, but it can, which is pretty cool. For those of you, read forums and people have told you it can't sequence external equipment, don't be fooled like I was. It can. Someone on Reddit pointed it out. I was being a muppet. Why I'm kind of showing this today is I'm finding this is really helpful for and making the rhythm not feel so lifeless sometimes. I don't think it's necessarily in the sound. I think it's in the way to use it, and I find that quite difficult some days. So to kind of explain that a bit better, when you're using multiple bits of equipment, you can kind of have these sort of happy accidents and things kind of not like lining up correctly, or you can have a sequence running and then changing the sound, and you can jump to different sort of very quickly jump to different sort of textures and different qualities if you've got a few bits of kit. And in the Rytm it tends to be, and this isn't a fault of the Rytm, this is probably more my expectations of wanting it to do everything, is that you can kind of get stuck in this sort of sameness sometimes. So this kind of gets around that, in that you can have an external bit of equipment, sequence it, and then once you've got something that sounds good, and most of the processing is really going through the Rytm, through Overbridge, then you can potentially grab that sound source, sample it, whack it in, and know it's going to work pretty much. So what I've got going on at the moment is basically two sequences. They're pretty much the same. One's delayed a few steps, and it's sending out Midi to the DX7, which has kind of got like a square wavy sound on it. For those of you who've got DX7s and don't bother programming them, you can kind of get a square wave roughly with it, but it's kind of like a gritty square wave. So if you wanted to use this project that I'll put in the description, you could put in some kind of raspy gritty square wave and you might get close. But yeah, that's what's creating the sound, and it's a polyphonic synth, so you can kind of, it's kind of chords because it's delayed. And the cool thing about that is you could swap out that sound immediately with something else. And I mean, and you could do that in the Rytm, but you could grab like a sampler or another polyphonic, or even a field recording, live, stick the microphone out the window, run it through, and you've kind of got these really different worlds that suddenly appear, which I quite like. I quite like also that, like I say, if I wanted to take this live, I can just grab basically the work's pretty much done. I just have to sample it, and having to transfer not only just the sounds but the kind of way of thinking to use different equipment and then try to transfer that to the Rytm is like a real pain in the ass, and probably why I don't play live much. So like, just to point out so I've got like these two tracks are sending MIDI. There's some settings in there to make sure you're sending MIDI data out. The thing that often catches people out, and I'm going to point to it, is this little nugget. So track 1 and track 2, you need to have this box ticked. So funnily enough, I used this box to turn MIDI feedback on and off, and I turned it off, so I couldn't get this working for ages. But yeah, obviously you press yes to toggle it, but you work that out. Yeah, I don't know, it's pretty cool. I'm quite enjoying it. I guess the other thing, if you're going to sample the sound source and you're putting EQ on stuff, something I've been thinking about is that it will sound slightly different. So, if you sample it fixed EQ and then you pitch that down, it's going to inherit exactly the same quality. So if you're working with nuanced sound to get the exact texture, you might have to sample it at different pitches, and then just map that across. But it should be fine. I mean, I used to do that sort of stuff in the old hip-hop days, like, pre-EQ and then whack it in PCs and all that sort of thing. Yeah, I don't know, it sounds quite cool. The other thing I found quite useful, which I'll point out, which is specific for this project, I guess, but I might do it a few more times, is I've been turning the feedback delay down quite a lot, like to 0, and then just panning it with the width. to get some real nice stereo spread and doubling up the tracks. So if we go to the amp, you can see track 1 pan to the left, track 2 pan to the right, and then this one's kind of got that little nice kind of movement, which when you do it erratic you kind of notice it's a delay, but when you do it more subtle, yeah, it kind of adds this sort of like more ambiguous kind of movement, which I quite like. Yeah, I don't know, it's pretty cool. yeah, pretty cool. I think I'll leave it there. Cheers.